All right. Hi, how's it going? My name is Zoe. I'm a software engineer and former professor, and this is the second part in a series on how to build a full stack e-commerce website. Yesterday, we started out by building out the API and the initial design of the homepage, and today we're going to continue on from there, including refining our dynamic pages and introducing global state, and then touching up some more styles. So if you want to follow along from the beginning, there's a link for that in the description below, labeled part 1. And if you enjoy the content on this channel, please consider subscribing. It really does help out the channel. And yeah, let's get started. So the first thing that I want to do here, let me go ahead and actually share my screen with you guys. Cool. And if you do have any issues hearing or seeing, just drop a comment in the chat below. I think you do have to be subscribed in order to comment. But yeah, I will hop in there periodically and show you what's going on. So just to give you an idea of what we got started with yesterday. So we did do this initial sort of homepage situation. What we're looking to build actually is this larger, this is a sort of a demo example that I built a while back. This is what we're looking to accomplish. So a real full stack business website for a company called Audiophile. So where you go and you can click on each individual product, and then you can see the product itself. And then you can do things like add to cart, increase the number of items in the cart, and then eventually checkout. So today, what we're going to be really focused on is working on that product page and then actually adding the items to cart. So let's go ahead and dive into that. All right, so first things first, we're going to want to go ahead and currently the way we have it set up is that when you go to, for instance, if I click see product here, it'll take me to a specific number. We've set that up by ID. I want to really quickly try and see if we can change that so it actually is set up by the name of the product, because they do actually all have their own name, like their own information. We set up an API for it just yesterday. And if you take a look at the data here, you can see that they have their own IDs, their own slugs, their names. So I would like to use this slug as the actual slug for the URL, because I think that would look a little bit cleaner. So let's go ahead and see if we can get that going. All right, so heading back to our desktop here, I'm going to click see product, and it's going to take me to the product page. All right, awesome. So first things first, let's go ahead and see where we have this currently set up. So this, the link that just brought us here was from the hero page. And as you can see here, I've hard-coded an href to ID 4, which is the ID for that product. What I want to do here is go back to our page. So if you take a look at our file and folder structure here, we have the different pages in our app. We have the index, which is that home page that you're seeing when you first jump onto the site. But then we have this other one here that's called ID. And so what ID, and it's in brackets. So ID is a dynamic page that will basically present this sort of product information. It'll dynamically present it based on which ID is passed to it. So currently it's set up to do that based on ID, but I would love to be able to do that based on a different parameter. So what I'm going to actually do here is I'm going to start by console logging what the router gives us back and see what data we can work with. We might not be able to work with any, and might just have to skip ahead to the next section, but if things work out, we could probably use the slug, which would be awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and inspect this page. I'm going to go back to the home page, and then I'm going to hit see product, so it'll give me my console log. All right, awesome. So it's giving me back a whole bunch of information here. It's telling me about the components, about the pages. We don't really need that. If we check on the query, we get ID, and ID equals 4. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So we're getting back the ID from the actual, from the sort of the query param right there. Awesome. So that's good to know. We can see right now that ID is just being grabbed as, let's see. Yeah, it's just linked through the href. So you know what? I think in order to keep things simple, it might be easier to just leave it the way it is. Let me take a quick look. Yeah, let's leave it the way it is for now. And if anything, this is a bit of an improvement, not necessarily a requirement. So you can come back and fix it up later. All right, so let's jump into the first thing we're going to do. So we had sort of gotten to this point where the pages are loading, and everything's going well, but currently our cart is absolutely nothing in it. This is just a placeholder that says products, right? So what we want to do is actually have this be full of those products like we have on our example website. But to get to that point, we do need to be able to sort of populate this, have this button actually do something, and have all of that working. So let's go ahead and start working on that. So what I'm playing with two different options here. We could go with Zustand, which is a great option to sort of create simple stores, but I'm thinking what we're going to end up doing here might end up being quite complex, or at least reasonably complex. So I'm considering using Redux Toolkit. So let's take a look at that. So for those who aren't familiar, Redux is a state management system, a global state management system that works really well with React. It's engineered to work with React. And it does involve a little bit of boilerplate. So let's walk through how to install and set up a just a boilerplate, regular old Redux Toolkit app, including from installation to state management sort of being set up and fully functioning. And then we can sort of hook it up and use it for our purposes. So let's go ahead and sort of install it first. So there should be some really clear documentation on how to just get started with Redux. All right, so I think we might need to install React Redux and then Types Redux as well. So I think, yeah, I think that's the way we're gonna have to go. But if we do run into any issues, we can always come back here and see what's going on. So let's go ahead and install these two packages. So we'll do npm install React Redux and also types React Redux. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and install those two packages and see what that gives us. So the thing about, while that's installing, the thing about Redux, as I said, is it does involve a fair bit of boilerplate, which is not super ideal. Like, you do have to create this like sort of store and then configure it and then, you know, work with the hooks and all of this, you know, whole situation, which again is not ideal, but it does allow you to do a little bit more complex, have a little bit more complex behavior in your app versus Zustand, which I also have not worked very extensively with, so you know, definitely could be room for me to work a little bit more. Let me know if you want me to do a project on just Zustand, and I can definitely do that in the future. But from what I've heard, it's a little less robust in terms of a complex app. All right, so Redux has been installed. You can see that, you know, it's gone ahead and been installed here. So the next thing we want to do now is actually create that store. So what I'm going to do is at the top level here, I'm going to create a new folder and call it store. And then I'm going to create a new file within that and call that store.ts and save that. And then I'm just going to copy this sort of boilerplate setup here just so we can grab it there. Oh, and you know what? We do actually need one more package, Redux Toolkit. Forgot about that. Let's go ahead and install that. All right, so yeah, as I mentioned, Redux does involve a lot of boilerplate. There's a lot of things that need to be installed and whatnot, so it does take a little bit longer. But once you do get it sort of sorted, then it's a great thing to work on. Because you can work with things like slices and make things a lot more simple. So these are referencing reducers that we don't have. We'll get into sort of what a reducer is and how it works, etc. in a little bit, but we will go ahead and just sort of set up the basic things that we need here. All right, so we're going to build reducers in a second, but what I'm going to do right now is actually create a type file using the hooks. Because we're using TypeScript in our project, the hooks actually need to be typed, and rather than typing them every single time we're using them, we're going to just create typed hooks and use those throughout our app instead. So within the store folder as well, I'm going to create a new file called hooks.ts and paste that and save that there. Cool, and we'll just leave that alone. So we'll end up, instead of using dispatch and using selector, if you're familiar with Redux, as you normally would, we're going to end up using use app dispatch and use app selector instead, just because it's already typed. All right, so going down here, let's go ahead and create our first slice. So slices are sort of like these pieces of state that combine together to become these reducers that we use to manage our state. So I'm going to copy what they have here for their counter slice right here, but we're actually going to use this for our cart. So because that is the state we're looking to manage. So I'm going to create a new file here, and the convention is to name it the name of what you're trying to sort of target with slice, with state, and then slice after that. So I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it cart slice.ts and save that. Then I'm just going to paste all of this information here. Cool. So we've got that there. We are importing root state. Let me try importing the type of root state. Or you know what? I'll import that shortly after. We can deal with those errors in a second. Let's go ahead and work from top to bottom and just customize this to our needs. So interface is going to be for cart slice or cart state. And what we want to have in our cart is it's going to be an object, or no, our cart is actually going to be an array of objects with for sure IDs that are going to be numbers. So we're going to start with that. That is going to be our initial state. There's going to be more information as well. We're going to have prices and things like that, but we're just starting really basically right now. Then I'm just going to pass this cart state to our initial state. So we're defining the initial state using the type. And then as the initial cart value, I'm just going to pass an empty array and save that. And it's giving me, oh, you know what? It needs an ID. So I'm going to give it a boilerplate ID of just 0. Cool. And again, TypeScript, you know, it does involve a little bit more setup, as I mentioned, but it does give you that excellent type checking to make sure that, you know, what you have going on is correct. All right, moving down. So we have our counter slice here. I'm going to change that to cart slice. And it's just calling this function create slice, which will create that slice that we're going to then import into that larger store.ts file. I'm going to rename it to cart because that's what we're going to be working with. It's going to pass in the initial state, which is what we just defined up here. And then we have our reducers. So the reducers are these sort of like actions that are going to take place based on when we actually call the slice or call the reducer. And we can like increment, decrement, etc. and basically utilize this these actions to work with our state, to interact with our state, I should say. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is probably add to cart. So following the convention that they've set up here, I'm going to create one called add to cart. It takes in state, and then I'm going to add a comma there so you don't get that error. And then what we want to do is somehow modify that state. So it's going to be state.cart, and you see it's already giving us the correct typing because we've typed out our initial state. We want state.cart to be the value of whatever is passed into this add to cart function, which we'll call in our app, right? So what we can do here is, as you see in the third example here, increment by amount, there's actually a second argument that's being passed, and it's called action. So there's a state, and then there's the actual action that's taking place, and that action is going to have a payload. Think of payloads like arguments that are being passed, or properties that are being passed through the function to basically be used. So we're going to copy this piece right here, this action with the typing, the payload typing. We might have to change that actual typing, but we'll change this. And we're going to actually use this in our in the way we set our state here. So state.cart is going to equal action.payload. We're going to have to change this in a little bit, but for now, we're going to leave it to type void is not assignable to type writable draft ID number. All right, so payload action, let's make it the type of cart state and see if that gets rid of that error there. No, it does not like that. Writable draft. I wonder if I give it this type, if it would get rid of that error. Oops. Save that. All right, we don't know where that is. If I give it the type any just for the time being. All right, that removes our error. So we'll go with that. Any is not best practice, as I mentioned before. Do not use any. This is just for the purpose of the demonstration. So we will then export the actual reducer here. So you notice we had the previous reducers that were there. We're actually going to just export add to cart, and it's giving us an error here because we need to change the name. So we're going to change this to cart slice. And then there's another thing called selectors. Will actually allow us to select the value that is present in our state. So we're going to change this to get or select cart. And I'm going to pass, we're going to grab the root state. Should be able to quick import it. Yeah. And then we're going to say state.cart.cart. That should be the correct value there. And then we're going to default export will be cart slice.reducer. So it's giving me an error here. Oh, you know what? Because it does not see it in the store. So let's go ahead and fix up this other page, this other file right here. So the reducer needs to be it needs to have the name cart so that it knows that what it's looking for is the cart. And then we'll pass in the cart reducer. We'll just, the convention is to bring it in as a reducer, but we'll import cart slice as cart reducer from /cart slice. I don't think that's, or we can just do it as cart slice. Let me not make this more complex than it needs to be. And we'll change this to cart slice there. Cool, and we can remove these two because we don't need them. Awesome, and you can see we're getting that export type of the root state from this file right here because we're calling the type of store we're calling the get state method, and we're getting that type there. All right, so now we have our cart slice, all of our errors are gone. So if we hook this up correctly, we should be able to get this initial state in one of our different components here. So let's go ahead and try and grab it in our product component here. So if you remember, we did set up these initial hooks here, this use app dispatch and use app selector, so that we can do a typed grab of the different properties that we have, the different values of our state here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say const cart equals use app selector brackets, and then I'm going to say what was it, select cart. We're going to just call that. Save that. And we're getting a little error here. Oh, expected 1 argument, but got 0. Let's take a look. Oh, no, just a momentary error. All right, awesome. And then we're just going to console log that cart and see what we get. Save that. And awesome. Let me remove this console log for the router so we don't get confused. And great. Let's head back to the page here. And let's go back to the main page. We'll go ahead and inspect it, check out the console there, go to our product. Oh, and we're getting an error. Could not find React Redux context value, select cart. We might need to call it in that case and see if that fixes that issue. Expected 1 arguments, but got 0. Oh, it's expecting the value for state. So let's go ahead and see what they expect us to do in when we're calling it. So when you go ahead and call use it, so this is how to use them properly. And sometimes I'll sort of have these like little mistakes that we can actually learn through them together. So what we're going to do, and sometimes I'm just making mistakes by accident, but what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead. Oh, you know what? We do need to make sure we're importing it. We are importing it from the cart slice, so that's good. Good step there. And then we need to we need to use state and to actually grab the correct state. That would make a lot of sense. So let's try that. Let's go ahead and say use app selector. Let me copy this so we can actually see how to do it properly. So use app selector state dot cart, and we can actually destructure this and grab cart. And then that should actually give us the correct value. So these small mistakes might throw you off once in a while, but don't let them stop you from doing what you need to do. Oh, you know what? I think I know what the error is. We need to also provide, so as I mentioned, there's a lot of boilerplate that you need to do with React and Redux. One of them is that you actually need to you need to provide the state at like the top level of the app. So let me go ahead and see if I can find the page on that. Let's go ahead, set up the store. We have everything in there. These are sort of more complex examples of how to use the reducers and how to use slices. Let me take a look and see if I can find provider and see if they have an example for that. Wrapping your application with provider. All right, so this is what we need to do to make sure that the application actually knows that the store exists, right? Just like how I believe this is built off of context, you know, this is just the way that the entire app is going to know that what we're doing is valid, essentially. So what we need to do is import provider from React Redux and then wrap it around our app wrap this provider around our app. All right, and then pass in our store. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at our app. So I think we probably want to import it in this part of our app. And I'm not sure if we want to import it right like outside the cache provider or the theme provider, et cetera, et cetera. So let's try it at the top level and then just move it down if it doesn't work. So let's go ahead and import provider from React Redux and wrap that around the entire app. And then we need to pass it the property of store. So we'll pass it store equals store. And we're going to import that from our store and save that. And so I think that's all that needs to be done there. Let's go ahead and see if that fixed our error. So let's go back to the main page and hit see product. Awesome, cool. We're not getting our error again, and we are getting our default ID. So that's exactly what we wanted to happen. So now we know that we've gone ahead and we've set up our Redux correctly. So as I said, it's not super difficult to set up Redux. It just does involve a lot of boilerplate, whereas with Zustand, it's literally like install one package, create a store, and then use it. Like it's so simple. So I definitely recommend checking out both options or other options that exist to see which works best for the project you're building. If you're building a simple counter, Zustand is definitely more than capable of handling that. And as I said, I haven't worked with it extensively, so it could be able to do a lot more complex things. I just have not worked with it extensively yet. I'm just much more familiar with Redux, so we're going to use that for today. All right, so the next thing, let me go ahead and push this code to GitHub. Another thing, if you're following along, all of the code that I'm working on in this repository is available on GitHub right now. So if you just scroll down in the description, there's one that has like the link to the current code. So you can literally just follow along with the changes that I'm making in that repository. If that's easier for you than watching it on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and commit this and say added Redux. And just commit that and push that up. Awesome. So that'll go up there. And now we can go ahead and work with Redux. So we have our cart. We're seeing our cart. Awesome. Great. The next thing that I'm going to want to do is let's think about this sort of as a larger, like our larger app, right? We want to be able to get our product, right? We display whatever our product is. And then within this, on this product page here, we want to be able to increment this number and then add whatever this value is to the cart. And then when we click on this cart, which is it's living in the nav, we want to be able to see whatever is in that cart. So I think two things need to happen here. One, we need to start pulling the cart into the nav. And the second thing we need to do is pushing these numbers and the data that connects it to the cart. So let's start by pushing the data to the cart. I think that's going to be the larger task here. So let's tackle the big thing first. So when I hit this add to cart button, I want to pass a bunch of information related to the product to the cart. So what do I need? I need the product name. I need the number of the count here. I need whatever that value is. And then I need, what else do I need? I need the cost of the product, like the actual value here. Because as you can see, this is the price here, so I need that to pass as well. We can probably format that a little bit better so it's a little bit clearer. But I want all that to be passed when I sort of hit that add to cart button. Now there are two factors that are actually important to consider here. One is that product counter is currently a separate component. So there are two ways we can mitigate this. We can move it into the same component and make that a little bit easier for us, or we can add this count to like a global state situation, which might not be ideal. It might be just easier to drop this in our count here. Okay, so I think what we want to start by doing is modifying our add to cart functionality. And I guess what we could do first is making sure our add to cart function actually works. So what we'll do is just as we did with our using our selector, we can do the same thing and say use dispatch. Where is it here? Dispatch. Okay, set up there. Cool. So we do need to sort of create this dispatch variable that will then call in our product. So let me create that here. So I'm going to say const dispatch equals use app dispatch, and then save that. Awesome. So now we can actually call our add to cart. So then down here on click, I want to dispatch add to cart from the slice there. And I believe we told it needs to take something. So it's going to take, let's check out our cart slice here. It's going to take an ID, or it's going to take, well, we didn't actually specify what it's going to take. So let's just pass it in an ID of 2 so that we know that if we get back the cart after, once we've hit add to cart, we know that it's changed. So we know if it's working or not. So let's go back to our local host and let's hit add to cart and see what happens. Awesome. So our ID is 2. So that console log that we have up here of the console log of the cart is working, and that add to cart button is working. So that's good to know. All right, so the next thing we're going to want to do now is be more specific in what we're actually passing into the cart here, right? So we want to pass in the product information. So we want to pass in an ID, which will be the product.id. We want to pass in the name, which will be the product. I believe it's .name, but I'm not 100% sure. We can check up here. Yeah, product.name. And then we also want to pass in the price, which is the product.price. And we'll save that. And then again, as I mentioned, the final thing we're going to want to pass in is the count. So I think for now, what I'm going to do is copy all of this and replace this product counter we have here and save that just for simplicity's sake. And then later we can refactor and use this component again. But I just want to make sure that what we have is working to begin with. So we're going to save this. We're going to import all the imports that we're missing. Import from React. We have button, and then oh, this is button from Material UI. So we're going to actually import, there are 2 different types of buttons, which is not great. So we're going to import this button. Import, oh, sorry, we already have it. Button as MUI button. Take out this duplicate declaration there. And then we're going to change these 2 to be MUI buttons. Cool. So yeah, the reason that I just did that is because we actually made our own custom button component, which was already being used in this project, or in this file, I should say. And so I could either have changed the name of the custom button or the name of the MUI button. I chose to change the name of the MUI button, but you could do either one, whatever makes the most sense to you. All right, so next thing we're going to want to do here is we are going to, let's see, we've added in the MUI button, we have the count. Oh yeah, we're also going to pass in the count. So we're going to say, I'm going to call it product count, or maybe item count. And that's going to be the variable of count. We're going to save that. All right, awesome. So now if I press maybe 2 here and I add to cart, now we're getting totally different information, right? So I'm getting the proper ID of the product. I'm getting the count, which is 2 of the product. I'm getting the name of the product, and I'm getting the price. Awesome, 100% better. That is exactly what we want to get. All right, so the final thing we need to do now, well, not the final thing, the next thing we need to do now is we need to actually access this in the cart. So let's go ahead and hop over to our cart and see if we can replace this products box with a more aesthetic, version of what we want to show. In fact, we could even, I think, in the demo version, there's an image as well. So let's go ahead and pass one more thing. Let's go ahead and pass the image ID or the image URL as well. What is that? That is this here. So product, and they'll say image, pass that. All right, perfect. I think actually we could probably pass a smaller version of the image, desktop / Mark II headphones. We could probably pass the mobile version, product.image. I think mobile would probably be would be better to pass because it's going to be so tiny. If they had like a thumbnail, that would be ideal. So we'll pass in that version, and then we'll hit our add to cart one more time. Let's do it with 3, just so we know we did it right. And awesome, yeah, we're getting that exact URL. Perfect, so we know it's working. Cool. So next thing we want to do is, yeah, go to the cart and have this box display everything, right? So first thing we're going to do is display the image. I'm going to use next image, and I'm going to set it up similarly to how we have this one set up here, except just smaller, right? So I'm going to pass in this information. And oh yeah, it's going to give me an error right now because we don't actually have this source. That's just totally fine. I just want to modify the size here, and let's grab that source that it needs. So using our same app selector, right? We're going to say const cart equals use app selector, and then we're going to pass in state, and it's going to be state.cart, and we're actually going to destructure it here, and that's going to be our cart. So then from our cart, we basically need to map over every product that is in our cart, because remember, cart is an array. So we have our cart here, right? Our cart, this array of objects. What we need to do now is map over them to ensure that we're basically creating a row for every item that is added here, right? So if I went back into, I don't know, speakers, and I hit C product, and then I added 2 to the cart, I should have a row with the headphones and a row with the speakers. So that's exactly what I want. We can work on adding in this counter a little bit later. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and build that part out. So, oh yeah, it's giving me an error here because I haven't finished setting up what's going on. We can ignore that for now. So in this box here, this box is going to be sort of like the template for what we're returning. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to say cart dot map, and then for each item in that cart, I want to return this box right here. And we're going to style up this box a little bit. All right, so, oh yeah, and it's giving me an error here because I need a key. So we'll address that in just 1 second. So what I've done here, right, I've taken the cart, which is an array of objects, and then I've gone down, and where I want the box to iterate, that row, that individual row we're building, I've taken cart, the array of cart, and I'm mapping over it. So I'm mapping over each item that is in that array, which are these objects that we've well, the console log is gone, but these objects that we're passing in, these products, these individual products. And so with each item, or I could even say with each product, if that's clearer, I can name this anything I want to name it. I want to return a box with, right now, just an image, but we're going to have an image, we're going to have the name, we're going to have the count, and also the price of it. So that's how you basically map within React if you're unfamiliar with mapping in React. So here, it's giving me an error because it says I need a key prop. So because we're just iterating over an array, it doesn't know sort of which box belongs to which set of product. It needs some sort of identifier so it knows that which box is which. So I'm going to pass in the prop key, and I'm just going to use the product ID because that is a unique identifier so that we'll know which box belongs to which product, essentially. All right, moving forward. In the image now, what I want to do is pass in the product.image. Or is it image? How did I pass it in initially? This is coming from this add to cart here. Yeah, so it's product.image. We're going to save that. Oh, and you know, it's giving me an error because we actually need to fix up our types here. So let's go ahead and fix up our type. So the cart should actually have an ID of number, an image type of string, a name, which is also of type string. It should have, what else did we say? The count, which should be a number. And I think, let me double check. Name, oh, the price as well. The price, which I believe is of type number. Should be of type number. We're going to save that. And then I'm just going to go down here and repeat that. So I'm going to say the image initially is just an empty string. The name is an empty string. The count is 0. And the price is also 0. We're going to say that. So now we have our states all sorted out. So now when I put product.image, I don't get an error because it's type safe. So the next thing we want to do, well, actually, we can go ahead and check this out now. So if I go ahead and I open my cart, I should see headphones. All right, so it's giving me it's working, but it's just giving me a broken image symbol. So we're maybe just need to take off this dot here. I found that yesterday, sometimes it worked with the dot, sometimes it's working without the dot, so we removed the dot. So let me give it a refresh here and see what's going on. Oh, you know what? I think that's a separate error, but we'll handle that later. Let's go ahead. Element type is invalid. Expected a string. Default and name exports. Where is this happening? Oh, you know, I'm getting an error somewhere. Product counter. Select cart. Add to cart. Getting product. Cart. Map. All right, let me comment out this and see if it gives me that same error, and then we can debug from there. Explain. Okay, yeah, so it's not that. Well, the only thing we've added is our Redux, so it's probably related to something Redux related. So just back up. Okay, so it's definitely related to that page. Okay, so we can work through that. So why are we getting an error with this selector? Did we do something incorrectly? State.cart. State.cart. Let me try console logging the cart and see if that gives me an error before I go ahead and add it back in. Let's remove this console log. So yeah, console logging is a great way to debug if you're like have no idea what's going on, what's wrong. Oh, you know, I'm getting another error here at, this is in product. So I'm getting an error at product.image.desktop. Product.image.desktop on line 23. Let's put a question mark there. Let's see if we put a question mark there. Because basically the issue is it didn't make the call yet, so it's erroring out because it doesn't have the sort of required information. But we fixed that error. So let's go ahead and add back in our Redux call here. We can see that the cart, or no, I haven't opened the cart. We can see the cart is populating correctly. So let's see if we can display correctly. So let me go ahead and remove this here, save that. And then we'll go ahead and refresh the page. Awesome, no error there. We'll go ahead, try and add to cart. And okay, we're getting an error. So cart to map is not a function. Why are we getting that error? Oh, you know what? Because cart is actually just an object. So I think what we're going to end up having to do, because, okay, let me explain the error here. So when we pass in the add to cart, when we pass in the payload here, it's actually replacing what the cart is. So even though we've initialized the cart as an array with objects, it's replacing it as just an object. So what we actually need to do is probably push that payload to the cart. So let's see if it will actually allow us to do this. Save that. And then now instead of replacing the cart, it should give us the cart as an array. So let's go ahead and refresh the page and see if that fixes that error. Let's go ahead, add to cart, add to cart. And then, all right, now we're getting a new error. So at least the cart is showing up as an array here, which you can see in our console log, which is great. Although it is showing us the initial non-value. So I guess maybe that might be the issue. Failed to parse source. Okay, so we are getting the image error. All right, so that's the error I was telling you about that we were getting yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and drop in that replace again. This replace as I pass in the product image just to see if that will remove that error there. So go ahead and do that. Add to cart, open that up. Awesome. So it's working. Perfect. All right. So we're not getting an image for the one that doesn't have an image. We are getting an image for the one that does. So this one is working correctly. The placeholder one is not. So that's totally fine. what we need to do is actually just replace the value that is in the cart. So I guess the easiest way to do this would be state.cart well, let me finish building out this piece, and then we'll worry about removing that initial one because that's a smaller fix. So we want it to say the name of the product next. So let's add in a typography element. Typography. And yeah, if you do have any questions about what I'm working on or what we're doing here, please feel free to drop a comment in the chat. And yeah, I will stop through periodically and respond to questions. So the variant here in our typography element is going to be body1. And then we're going to pass in here the product dot name. And we're going to save that. And then after that, let me check out the example. All right, so we have the name on top and then the price below. Let me actually grab the color of this while we're here. Color picker, super useful Google extension there. All right, so it's going to be the image. Then we're going to have a box. I'll probably make this a flex box. And then I'm probably going to need to make this a flex box and have it to one side and have the count on the other side. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and product.name, and then another typography here. Variant, I think we'll probably end up doing body2 for this. And again, I'm still going to have to adjust these so they fit the style. But just to give us a baseline, product.price, save that. And then I'm going to wrap this in a box. So this is the name and the price we're wrapping here in a box. We're going to wrap that there. And then, as I mentioned, I'm probably going to need to wrap these three in a box. So that's the image and the price to keep it separate from the count. So we'll wrap that as well. Save that. And then on the right side, we're going to have the count. This is going to end up being a counter. So for now, I'm just going to have it sort of there saying product.count. And we're just going to leave that there for the time being. All right, cool. So if we've done this correctly, we should have, we have a bunch of numbers populating from the top to bottom, which is what we want to happen right now. So let's go ahead and style it up a little bit. So this larger box, we're going to use the SX attribute. If you're not familiar with Material UI, SX is basically like using the style prop on a regular HTML element. It allows you to access the styling with a few extra benefits and bonuses going on there. So we're going to use the SX prop there, and we're going to say display flex, and save that. Make sure you put things in quotes. Save that. So it's going to display them inline. The next thing we're going to want to do is actually do the same thing here. This is for the inner box. We're going to make it display a flex, and then we're going to set the flex direction to be column, so they go from top to bottom. We're going to save that. Awesome. Let's refresh so we see the changes. Oh, you know what? I do need to add it to the cart. All right, cool. You know what? Oh, you know what it is too? This is also too, this is going to be too tight for it to work properly, potentially. We can fix that in a second. But what we're going to do here now is we want we want these to be on the same line. So yeah, let me expand the width of the cart to begin with. That's going to be this, or that little box, I should say, not the whole cart. Let's try 30 view width. And again, this is also just because I have it minimized. Maybe 20 is sufficient if I don't have it minimized. Yeah, that's actually pretty decent. So let's go ahead and drop. So this image, this name, that, and the count should all be on one line there. So let's go ahead and set that up. So we have our display flex, our first image. Oh, you know what? I need to make this a flex box as well. That's what it is. Display flex. We'll save that. Cool. And now they're all on one line. Perfect. And then product.count should be showing up, but I'm not seeing it there. So that is interesting. Let me close this, maybe add 3 and see if I can get it to show up. No, I'm not seeing 3 at all. That's really interesting. Maybe I need to wrap it in a typography element. Let me try that. But this will change shortly once we add in that that count functionality. Let's go ahead and save that. Let's hit it with a quick refresh. Oh, and we should give it a variant. Let's give it body1. Save that. Refresh. Go ahead and add to cart. and then there. Interesting. We're not seeing it all. Let me take a look and see if it's like just hiding in there, hidden under something. Oh, you know what? It's just that we're not getting it. So maybe it's not being passed at the time that the call is happening. Okay. So that's sort of, we will probably then actually need to add the count to the cart and that to the slice, just to make things a little bit easier. That's why I didn't want to get rid of the component. I was like, I think we do need to actually end up adding this to the slice. But that's like a smaller problem that we can work on after. Okay, cool. So we do have this showing up there. I do want to change the color of the variant here. So I'm going to pass in that SX prop. I'm going to grab that color that we had just grabbed not too long ago. I'm going to set that color to be that color. Save that. Awesome. And then we're going to go ahead and, yeah, let's go ahead and remove this guy from the project. Oh, so also for any who don't know, I've done this project before. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but just in case you weren't familiar, I've done this project once before. And I do have sort of all the like solutions to everything going on here. So if you do have any questions about sort of what, like how you would get to the end of it faster, like if you don't want to wait on the videos, you can go ahead and check it out. It's at zdavidson/audio file on GitHub. But it's also a really great reference tool to see like what worked in the past and sort of, you know, take a little less time, spend like working on getting things together. So what I've done in the past here, which is really interesting to see, is I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different reducers within the cart. And then I have all of these other reducers as well. So let's see if the logic holds up. So it was an add to cart, which pushes an item to the cart. And then there's one called clear existing cart, which takes the cart and I guess remove. Oh, this is probably for like remove those items from the cart. We want to start a new cart. That's interesting as well. And then increase items and decrease cart items. All right, these all seem like very interesting actions. I'm going to take a look at this start new cart and see where else it's referenced, because I think that's probably what we need to do in order to get rid of that initial item there. So I see that it's only used in 2 files. Let's see, or it's used in this file. But let me search for it here. Start new cart. No, not so simple. All right, let me see. It would probably be used in the add to cart file. So let's just remind ourselves, it's state.cartitem/.shift. If you look at what .shift means in JS, it removes the first element of the array and then returns the remaining array. So that's probably exactly what we want to do. I could go look it up, but we might not necessarily need to spend the time doing that. So what I'm guessing I did here is when I created a new cart for the first time, I would call start new cart, remove the items from the cart, and then return like the cart with just the correct item. So let's go ahead and try and implement that. And if we have any issues, we can always come back. So in the cart here, I'm going to call it the same thing, start new cart. It's really great when you name things like semantically easy to remember, like clear what they do, so that you can actually use them again. So I'm going to say state.cart.slice. I'm going to save that. Oops, I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to make sure we export that. Start new cart. And then save that. And then when I go to the cart, when I go to product and I hit add to cart, I want to call 2 things. So I want to call, let's call dispatch. So I'm going to wrap this, and we're going to call 2 functions. We're going to say dispatch add to cart. And we're going to also say dispatch start new cart. Call that. And we're going to import that. Oh, good. Import it, auto import it. So if I've done this correctly, I think what will happen is that when I hit that and add to cart, it will, oh no, it didn't work. It should have just like removed the first item from the cart. Let's see, add to cart. No, that didn't work. All right, so oh, you know what? Because I'm calling slice, not shift. All right, that's a silly mistake on my part. Let's call shift. Save that. All right, cool. Try it one more time. Refresh. Press 2, add to cart. Awesome, perfect. So it's working the way we expected it to now. Perfect, great. So this is working. This is like where we want to be. We're going to add to cart, show it up in the cart, and it populates. The only thing we need to do now is to add the actual count number to the cart. So this is something that's going to have to change. Basically, we need somewhere where this count is living, sort of like in a global sense, and that it just like updates in the cart once the correct button is pushed. So we need to somehow, well, this count needs to be upgraded essentially when we push it to the cart there. So let's go ahead and probably save what we have right now. Let's go ahead and make a commit because we've done quite a bit of work already. Let me remove the stuff that we're not using at the moment. Take out some of this extraneous stuff. Let's make a commit. Save that. Awesome, cool. So let's update that and say, basically add products, add initial product to cart, and we'll commit that. Awesome, we'll sync those changes. Looking good. All right, cool. Let's see, what else can we work on today? I think a really quick thing that we could add. And oh, you know what? I think one more thing that I want us to work on today before we go ahead and tackle some of the larger issues we have to fix in the app. I want to make sure that the sort of navs and things like that are working correctly. So let's go ahead and fix that really quickly. So when I click on the image here, I actually want to wrap it in a link to make sure that what I'm doing is actually sending me back to the home page, because sort of conventionally people expect that when you click on the nav, it takes you back to the home page. So really quick fix, but like now once I click on that, it'll actually take me back to the home page. And when I click see product, it should take me to the product page. So really super quick fix that just gives us sort of like a better quality of life. And all of these also take you back to the home page because we haven't built out those sort of product specific pages so far. But once we do build those out, that'll be a really useful way to get to those as well. Cool. So yeah, we've done a lot today so far. We've been able to set up the cart so that we're actually adding the products to the cart. We can actually touch up the styling just a little bit here in the cart just to make it look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So we'll add some margin to the left of the left of the box here. So we'll say margin left, and we'll say probably 1 rem. Save that. Awesome, that's looking a lot better. And then we'll need some margin probably around each box as well. So maybe we'll just do margin of 1 all the way around this larger box up here. Or margin top and bottom of 1 rem. And then left and right will be 0, and we'll save that. All right, awesome. It's got a little bit more space on the top and the bottom here, so that's really nice. Another thing we want to implement while we're here is this remove all button. So we want to be able to basically remove all of the items in the cart at sort of a simple click of a button. So let's go ahead and implement that really quickly, and then we'll wrap up for the day. So I want to make this remove all. I'm actually going to change this to a button rather than typography. And I think, I don't want it to be button from button. I want it to be, I do want it to be button, but I want it to be a MUI button. So let's go ahead and see if we can import that instead. So import button from Material UI as MUI button. And we're going to go ahead and import that here and save that. And then we'll use this over here and save that there. All right, awesome, really great. So let's go ahead and use this, and we're going to add an on click. So on click, we need to set a new action here. So on click, I want to basically remove everything from the cart. So on click, we're we're going to create a new action here, a new reducer, or a new action on our reducer, and we're going to say clear cart, and we're going to pass in the state, and then we are going to say state dot cart equals, can I pass an initial state? That would be really convenient if we could do that. Cart state is not assignable. Let's see, what if I pass in this object right here? I wonder if it would give me an error. That it probably would, but let's try it. Oops, save that. Oh, it doesn't. All right, awesome. So we're just gonna clear, or maybe I can just pass an empty array. No, it doesn't like that. All right, we'll pass in the initial state value again. So we'll set the initial state. We're gonna let's export that. We'll clear the cart and save that. And then I'm gonna call this, I'm gonna call clear cart here and save that. I actually need to dispatch clear cart. And then we'll close that there. And then we're going to grab dispatch from here. We're going to say create the dispatch variable, const dispatch equals use app dispatch. And that's how we grab that hook there. Make that a const, save that. All right, awesome. And then we're going to say clear cart. We'll call that. Perfect. And so now if I, let me refresh this page. If I add something to the cart and then I hit this button, it'll remove it. Awesome. So it does replace it with the sort of placeholder variable. That's why it looks kind of crazy, but we'll fix that tomorrow as well. So I'm going to just push this up really quickly. So we're going to say add clear cart. We're going to commit that, push that up, and yeah, there we go. So let's recap what we've done today. So today we've gone ahead and we've added in our Redux state, right? So we've created this whole file of cart slice. We've created the typed hooks. We've created our store and added our cart slice. We might end up adding further slices in the future, possibly counters or other reducers that would be useful to have in our project. Because I said, this is a full stack e-commerce site and we've only built a very small portion of it so far. So that's what we'll be looking to work on in future days. So stay tuned for that and follow along for more information. If you are interested in learning how to code, that's something we definitely offer as well. My company, Davidson Programming Academy, offers one-on-one customized mentorship and tutoring. So if you are interested in learning how to code, sort of pursuing a career as a front-end developer, please hit that first link in the description below. You can schedule a free call with me to chat about, sort of the prospects, the good and the bad and the ugly, and see if it's a good career fit for you. I personally, my life has been changed completely by becoming a front-end developer, so I'd be more than happy, and really I'm just doing this out of passion to a degree to help others learn how to code. So yeah, if that's something you're interested in learning how to do, hit that first link in the description below. If you liked what you see today, please subscribe, like the video if you did, and leave a comment down below. I do read and respond to every single comment that's written. If you do have any questions, please feel free to leave those in the comments below, and stay tuned for the next installment of this series. Going forward, we're going to continue finishing up setting up our cart. We're going to build our checkout pages. We're going to build these like larger sort of marketing pages that you need to have on an e-commerce site, and then you can use this project to add to your portfolio one day. So that's all for now.